Hello everyone, I hope you've been well. Things have been super busy for me lately and we've got a lot to cover in this video, so I'm just gonna dive right in. First of all, I'm going to be doing a review as well as some Q&A of some questions I asked on Instagram, and at the end I have an announcement as well as some giveaway information, so stick around. I'd like to give a huge thanks to GAOMON, I believe is how you pronounce it, GAOMON Tablets, for sponsoring this video. I guess it's not entirely the same thing as being sponsored, but they did send me a couple of tablets to ask me to review them. So it's sort of the same thing, but either way, thank you very much for reaching out to me. I drew this picture on a PD1161, which includes a battery-free pen with like really great pressure sensitivity, an 11.6-inch working area. It has 8 shortcut keys that you can customize to whatever you want. It's super lightweight and really just kind of like fun to hold and has the tilt support so you can kind of prop it up a little bit so it's drawing at an angle. With me, I just kind of like tucked it into my arms and kind of like held it, but you can use tilt support. So to start off, the battery-free pen thing is like a really, really big deal for me, which is why I was excited to review this, because I've only ever used Wacom tablets in the past. And, well, I mean, to be specific, I've literally been using the same Intuos 4 tablet for like the past 10 years, which is kind of embarrassing. But, I was excited to try something new because I was, thrown off by Wacom's tablet prices, as most people are, and other brands not having battery-free pens. Because, I don't know, a battery is just one more thing that I'd have to worry about. I don't know. It's probably not such a big deal to anyone else, but it was a big deal to me. So the fact that the pen was like that was super cool. But the pen handled great. It fits really comfortably in my hand, and, the pressure sensitivity is incredible, because you can adjust the sensitivity, and so maybe the sensitivity on my other tablet wasn't as high, but I feel like the pressure sensitivity, it's so hard for me to say that, is almost even like better than on my Intuos, but I think that's just a matter of like the settings. Either way, the point is it's very good. I ended up using my keyboard instead of the hotkeys for the shortcuts, just because I have a lot of shortcuts that I use when I work, but I also never used the hotkeys on my other tablet, so that's not a feature that's super important to me, but it also is very useful, I know, for most people. And I'm sure if I learned to use them more, it would be more useful, but it takes a long time for me to change, which is the same reason why I'm still using Photoshop instead of learning Clip Studio Paint like everyone else at Webtoon. Yeah, because it's set up easily and it's nice to draw on and very nice and relaxing. I think the only issue that ever came up for me was that the way that my desk is set up, the distance between plugging it into the wall, because with these kind of screen monitors, it's the same for every screen monitor, no matter the brand, as far as I know. You have to also plug it into the wall because it needs an external power source and the HDMI to plug it into the computer and a USB. Like, I haven't seen any kind of screen tablets that work any different. But for me, I would have to rearrange my desk because of the cord length, or just get an extension cord, which that just depends on your setup. That's more on me. It's a perfectly fine cord length. But yeah, the whole drawing experience using it was a lot of fun, and it's a learning curve, learning to draw just like on a normal tablet versus drawing on a screen. So like, it was super easy to use, but still not something I'm super used to. Either way, it's especially like for first timers just getting into this sort of thing, it's a great tablet because it's less than $200, which I think is incredible. I think the cheapest comparable Wacom tablet is like at least $650, and like I think I've heard of X-Pen 2. I think that one's kind of maybe the same, but I think maybe closer to like $400. So I think this is a really good, really effective alternative to those. And yeah, so if you're in the market for this kind of tablet, you should definitely check it out. In the description, you can find links as well as a 5% off discount code. There are also 2 other tablets linked in there as well. One of them is similar to the one that I was using before this, but that one's only for $50, which is a super great deal. because like if drawing on a screen isn't super important to you, then just drawing on the tablet, then I think that one would be a really good option. Yeah, so check it out, and thank you again, GAOMON, for sponsoring sponsoring me for supporting my art. Yeah, so moving on from that, I asked you guys some questions, and I made a list of ones that I felt that I could answer, because you guys sent a lot of them, but I'm not going to, I just kind of tried to condense them as much as possible. Okay, so let's begin. Can you talk about the process of arriving at a comic, brainstorming about the plot, etc.? That's a tough question. I think the process is different for everyone, obviously. But I think it's important when you're thinking about a story, if you can see all of the pieces, not all the pieces, if you can see all of the major pieces involved, like, you're like, okay, I can kind of, I'm excited about how this starts, and, like, I can kind of see some cool stuff, like, happening in the middle, and, like, and I think this ending would be, like, really, really cool, and, like, and it's worth, like, fleshing it all out. But it's, like, but the problem I have, because, like, I have a lot of ideas a lot of the times, and I'm like, oh, this would be interesting. But it's, like, I usually have to stop myself, because it's sort of, either I can only think of the really cool ending when everything else at the end is, like, kind of boring, or, like, the beginning is, like, super cool, but, like, I can't figure out how it would end, so it would just sort of, like, peter off, which obviously isn't worth, like, reading or spending a lot of time on. So it's, like, you have to find the subject matter that you feel like you can tell just, like, a complete story. I guess you're going for the kind of story that doesn't need those kind of endings, and that's fine, but I don't really do, like, slice of life kind of comics too much. So I guess, like, once you have just, like, the barest concept of what you're excited about, that's when you start to get into, like, okay, well, I'm going to draw some things. And as you draw things, and the more you draw, more ideas will come to you. Like, even now when I'm drawing Muted, as I am drawing it, I'm thinking of all these other things that I can, like, add in, like, little extra flashback kind of things. So, like, you don't need to figure out everything, but you just need to be confident that you can you'll be excited about this story until it's complete. That was a really long-winded answer, and I'm so sorry. I don't even know if it made any sense. But, yeah. Alright, well, let's, and then someone else asked, how did you create the color palette for Muted? When I started, the colors were, for lack of a better word, they were more muted. And then as I, whenever I draw, I always mess with the hue and saturation a lot. And, and I ended up going with, someone used the term jewel tones, which I really liked, where it's just, like, sort of, like, deeper and more saturated kind of tones. And, like, that's how Camille's hair ended up being, like, way more, like, almost magenta-y than, like, the standard typical, like, redhead color. Just because I, like, shifted the hue and saturation a little bit more towards, like, the purple. I'm like, ooh, that's pretty. And I just kind of went with it. So it's like, so whenever you're drawing, like, when you're coloring anything, if you have something that you're like, well, that looks kind of cool, to, like, just kind of mess with the hue and saturation a bit. Just drag the bar around, just mess with those settings a little bit. And, like, some of them will probably look really ugly, but it doesn't hurt to just, like, try messing some stuff around. And if you like some parts of it, but some parts are gross, then just recolor those parts. And eventually, as you look at it, at least for me, like, I feel like it'll kind of hit you where you're like, ooh, yeah, that looks, like, really cool. And then, so you just kind of truck along that. And so, but yeah, like, for Muted, especially in sort of, like, the nighttime chapters, I really like, this is no surprise to anyone who's watched any of the other Heather's videos, where I really like blue and red together. So, like, compared to Camille having a lot of red in her hair, a lot of other stuff will be blue or, like, dark blue, and like, the hair is the very brightest part of her, so I don't want anything to, like, detract too much away from it, so I don't want her, like, also wearing red. Yeah, so it's just sort of about feeling it out as you go along. Vanilla Bean asked, how do you create the expressions for your characters, because they look so lifelike, And then Stefana asked, how do you draw proportionately? And well, you can see here I'm using the liquify tool, which helps, like, if you draw something you're like, well, that looks weird, the liquify tool helps you kind of like move it around a little bit to like push it to where you know it's right, but for some reason you weren't able to draw it properly. But as for the rest of it, it's like when I was in college, I did a lot of life drawing classes, which helped me improve my anatomy a lot. There are a lot of online life drawing tools that you can use, and you can specify, that you want them to have clothes or no clothes. Obviously, you might want to specify clothes, but like, depending on where you are or what you're doing. But it's just good to know, like, just do really quick, like, gestures of the form, like, just like little 30-second to a minute intervals, so you can like try to capture the essence of what's going on, just to get that movement. And so it's just something that kind of clicks the more and more you do it. But in reality, like, both for expressions and for proportions, I actually don't really draw like that true to like human life, like the way like when characters are upset, I make mouths and eyes obviously like way bigger than they actually are, and it's just about learning to emphasize parts that you consider the most important, because to exaggerate to like get your point across, because like humans can be expressive obviously, because we all know what human expressions look like, but it's like when it comes to drawing, I just want it to look a certain way. So, and with proportions, like, I draw necks, I know, a lot, like, skinnier and, like, longer than they actually are in real life, just like how it looks. So it's all, just about finding a balance of, between that kind of stuff. Sniper asked, when creating a webcomic, how can you make a career out of it? Well, I think that for most people, at least for me, comic creating didn't start off as a career. I didn't go into it thinking it would be a career. I went into it thinking that my ultimate goal in life before was to eventually create an animated story. Like, I wanted to animate a series, but obviously that takes a lot more people. But like a comic, I felt to me was a good compromise, where like I can have these people talking, but I don't have to like worry about voice actors, or like I can have all of this, going on without having to draw every single frame. And so it was just a really good way to tell my story. And but so you go into it, you commit to it as much as you possibly can, but without, I guess, without expecting anything. You work hard, and you promote yourself, and you do everything that you can, and you set up your Patreon, you get people interested, and you on Webtoon you can get ad revenue for posting your chapters, and so there's ways to make money, but I am very shocked. I'm not saying obviously it is possible, but it's it takes a lot of work for comic art to be sustainable as just the full-time career with nothing else, no commissions or anything supplementing that. I know that's not the most optimistic answer, but that's how it ended up going. It's a lot of work. You have to understand, a lot of stuff goes into it, and you should try. If you're passionate about it, obviously you should try it. But just know you're not gonna just post a page and be all of a sudden all this money is gonna be rolling in. It's about a lot of compromises, especially in the beginning. I had a full-time job when I started it muted at first, and then when I got my contract, I went down to part-time on that job until the money really started to come in, and then I was like, okay, now I can make this my full-time thing. But it took a long time. I'm 28 years old. It took a while for me to get to this point. But yeah. But keep at it. Michelle asked, how often do you think it's okay to change your style? And in my opinion, you could change your style as much as you want. I like drawing in random styles all the time. I think it's really important to just draw however you feel whenever you want to. And people might whine oh, I like your old style better. I've never had that problem. But but I know that other people have. And like, but it's just like, it's just about what is, fun for you. Like my art has gone through a lot of like weird phases, and it's like you just got to go with what you think fits and like what you learn. If you're like, oh, that's cool, I want to try it, and you might try it and it might not work and it might settle back to kind of like more your style, but you still will have learned something from experimenting with it. And so it's just, it's just about studying, but I think you can change it, as often as you want. And like the more you do it, the more you'll settle into sort of your default kind of state of being. But even then, even when you have your quote unquote like default style, it is still fun to like sort of experiment and do like random art projects. Chocolate asked, what's the most helpful tip? What is the most helpful art tip you've learned? I think the most helpful art tip that I've learned is it's more important for you to finish it than it is for it to be perfect. If you try to make it perfect, you're never going to get it done. You need to finish it as good as you can in the moment without breaking yourself over it. And you're like, okay, like I've done everything, it's done. And then you move on to the next thing, because every single time you do something, you're going to get better. You're going to take the lessons you've learned. And it was like that one story about how like half the class was told that they had to make one clay pot perfectly, while the other class was just like, you need to make as many clay pots as possible. And like the class that was allowed to do more and just like experiment and just do as many as possible, like naturally learned better because they were doing it so much more. So by the end, their finished product was overall still better than the people who were so stressed out about being perfect. Like you need to understand, that nothing will ever be perfect, for one, and two, like you just need to learn and grow from it and move on to the next thing, move on and be better next time. And even if you aren't better next time, who cares, because you're going to move on to another thing. Like just keep doing it. It's better to so it's better to finish it than to be perfect. That is my most important art tip that I've learned. Yeah. Another question is, what tips do you have for someone who wants to start a webcomic? My biggest tip that I always say whenever anyone asks is to build a buffer. Is like, because you want to post consistently. So if you you want to post your comic, say on a Wednesday, but before you post on that Wednesday, like you should have at least, if you're on Webtoon, you should have at least 10 episodes done, if not more. Or if you're anywhere else, you should have at least like 20 pages done, if not more. But it's like, because, you get sick or sometimes you don't feel like doing anything. But like if you have a buffer, you'll be able to continue to post once a week instead of having to be like, oh, sorry guys, like I need to take a break, because it'll be done. And it'll also give you a better understanding of like how much you can accomplish in a certain amount of time. And it's like, and I get the need for wanting like that sort of like instant gratification and like that sort of like instant validation of like posting your artwork and having people see it and everything. But like webcomics take a long time. And so it's like, if you're already like exhausted just doing like 10 episodes a week without anyone even putting pressure on you when to finish them, then it's probably going to be pretty hard for you to continue when people are expecting it once a week. And so it's just a good way to learn about yourself and what you're able to achieve and see how fast you can do things and like learn about your style. And again, just to have just a way to, if you need to take a break, but you can still keep posting. It's just it's good for time management. So definitely have a buffer of like as many episodes as you can stand. And it helps for sure. And then Wiley, how did you get the confidence to put your art on the internet? How do you keep up with it? I've been posting because I was born in 1990, and so like posting on the internet back in the day, like everyone was posting on the internet and no one knew what they were doing. I feel like standards are like way higher now than they were before. So I can understand being scared to want to put your art online and like because people just seem so much more particular, and like, it's scary because you don't want people to like talk down to you, but at the same time, it's like, even if you are the greatest artist in the world, people will still say stuff because people aren't obligated to like you, but there's going to be a ton of people who do like you, and so you can ignore the people who don't. So it's one of those things that you just gotta do, and the sooner you do it, the sooner you can sort of build that skin, and just like the sooner you can, build an audience. And it's just a lot of fun to engage with a community of other artists, and it takes a while, but it's, I think the rewards of putting yourself out there and sharing your art sincerely is much more important and rewarding than being scared of what people will say. Like, and like to just, like, obviously you're not obligated to share your art, but it's like, if you just want to draw in a sketchbook, that's fine. But if it's like, if you have all this art that you want to you show the world, then do it. Like, there's so many places that you can post it, and like, I think it's important for people to reach out as much as they can, and don't get discouraged with whatever lack of success or numbers, because numbers don't matter, but like, I think it is important to put yourself out there, and just do whatever you want. Like, you could post like a scribbly sketch. You don't have to do fully detailed illustrations all the time. Like, the only reason I post like only illustrations is because that's all I do. I don't randomly sketch. I only do like full illustrations, or just like I sketch for like an episode, and obviously I'm not going to post information about an episode that hasn't been posted yet. So, it's just about learning. And but like, even now, like recording these videos, half the time I'm like, what am I saying? Like, half the stuff, like, most people probably aren't even going to listen to this point in the video. And if you do, high five. Like, let me know you will listen to this far. But like, even if no one's listening, it's, I don't know, it's worth trying, I guess. Just to see. And you get better at it. I'm a lot better now at speaking publicly now than I was just a couple of weeks ago, because of my time in LA at LA Comic Con and meeting everyone and speaking there. And it was, that was a good experience for me to learn. So I'm trying to get better at speaking. But yeah, so if you have art that you want to post, then yeah, go for it. Okay, last question, which is, I guess, a little bit less heavy than the other one, but do you use a fill bucket? How do you avoid caterpillar lines? And I do use a fill bucket whenever I make my line art nice enough to use a fill bucket, because sometimes I do pretty scribbly lines. But I use the magic wand to select the space I want, and then I do expand selection to go a little bit wider than the actual line, and then I go underneath, a layer underneath the line art, obviously, to fill that in, and it usually covers most gaps. Like, sometimes there might be like a little like tiny spot that you could just fill in normally, but yeah, for the most part, that has been useful for me. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. So, circling back again. Whoa. So, now that we're finished with all of the questions and the review, like I said, there's going to be an announcement, and the announcement has to do with the girl that I'm drawing. You may or may not realize that she's wearing a super cool hoodie with one eye logo on the shirt, and that is merch. Crowdmade reached out to me, and they partnered with me to make some merch, and I was super excited about it, because they wanted to lean more towards my YouTube stuff. And I have Rosie, and I have Lonnie, which is the Weather Witch, because obviously I can't make Heather's merch because that's like copyrighted and not really my stuff. But I just really liked, you know, Lonnie's like whole eye aesthetic. So we got some products made for that, which I'm super excited about. So yeah, please check that out. You know, you can see the products listed underneath the video, as well as just going to the link, which I will post somewhere on this video. And but also, if you've continued to listen up to this point, A, good for you, and B, thank you, and C, if you do hashtag Anidoodles crowdmade in the description or in a comment below this video, you will be entered in a giveaway to win some of the stuff. Hopefully this is the best way to do this, and it doesn't, and like, because I'll try to respond to the comments of the people who I select for the winning, and I'll select the winners, or probably November 15th-ish, the middle of the month. I'll give you a couple weeks, but it's like hashtag Anidoodles crowdmade, and then, you know, post it in your comment, and then I'll select people from that, and then I will reach out to you, and if you get back to me, I will send you some stuff. It's between like a couple of, it'll be 5, so it's like a couple hoodies and like a few shirts. So yeah, so I know it's been a while, and thank you very much for your patience, and there's a lot of videos that I want to make, but I have to make sure that I don't break my hand. And if you're not already reading Muted, go do that, please. And then I also have a webcomic that I work on with my wife called Lovebot, so also read that, please. All the descriptions or links, down in the description. And yeah, I love you all very much, and I hope you have a great day, and thank you so much for your support, and hope everything I said makes sense. I'm pretty sure this is the longest video that I ever made on this channel. So, again, super high five to anyone who stuck around. I will talk to you later. Bye!